Hello, everybody. We're live. It's MyMusic. It's Coath here. It's my favourite time of the day. It's nearly lunchtime. And it's going to be my pleasure to talk to Kristin Hersh in a minute. But first, we're going to have this.
I need to get going, mate. I'll see you later.
There we go. We've done that. We've done that. There we are. We've done all that bit. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely.
This took a while for us to organise and get here.
It's been a weird year,
hasn't it? You're a very busy person. I'm a very busy person as well. But you've just been incredibly busy because I don't think you've stopped, have you?
No, I think mostly because they stabbed me. Most people who lost their jobs in the pandemic didn't lose the whole concept of their job. Us musicians were erased in a moment, and I played up until I think my last show was Valentine's Day in Chicago. That's right before they shut us all down. So I played it well without having any idea what was going to happen. But my problem solving was just to throw myself into a book and some records. And so I've been a little bit buried that way with my 3 entities and 2 books. But hi.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Well, no, but I don't mind because I like reading your books and listening to your music.
So that's very nice of you.
That's not a problem at all. It's quite interesting. I did a post on LinkedIn recently, and people said, "Oh, are there musicians that can actually write?" Then I said, "Yeah, there are." Surprising that.
I get that too. I don't think they want actual writing. They want you to name drop, and I think being kind of nasty.
Yeah.
And I'm really nice. And in fact, my last book had no names in it because I so disagree with the concept of one name being bigger than another and one person being more important than another. And so that can be very disappointing, which I consider a win. I like to disappoint people.
Oh, is that why you sort of stuck with sort of pronouns for people rather than actual names?
Yes, it made the book ugly, and I was asked to write a book about raising 4 kids on a tour bus. Raising 4 kids in my lifestyle, in other words, and my response initially was, I love kids and I love buses, but you've met both, right? They're not engaging every moment. I don't know if that I could really pull off a whole book about it. And then my editor said, well, I'm hoping that the book starts right where Rat Girl or Paradoxical Undressing left off. This will end as your baby son turns 18. And so your life will be reflective of the trajectory of the book. And that just sounded cruel. I was so mean. It's like I'm already facing empty nest. And then I'm going to let the baby and the book go at the same time. And 30 years. My other memoirs had covered 1 year and then 10 years. And this was 30. So I said, no, that's not going to happen. And apparently he pointed out, you say no every time, and then you get obsessed. And I got so obsessed with this one that it was about 6 years of waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning so that I could self-hypnotize and relive memories so that I had all the senses going. And I don't think there's anybody dead in this book. In my other books, there were dead people. And so there was all I had was self-hypnosis. But this time it was just trying to encapsulate 30 years into a trajectory that made some kind of sense.
Yeah. And, but there's some great stories in there as
well. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a little bit hard to
Absolutely
follow, I
great
think. There are
stories.
too many stories.
Is it hard to follow? I found it, if I'm honest, I found it more difficult to get into
Yeah.
at the beginning than your other books. But that, do you know what? What I really love about you as an artist, full stop, is that you are, I'm going to just use the word real. You just keep everything real. And actually, what I really loved about the fact that you made it hard work for me to get into this book was the fact that with so many people, you read a book and then you start reading their next book and you think, actually, it's quite samey from the last book. But you've actually, with all three of your books, you have written them in a slightly different way. And I really enjoyed that. And the fact that I got, I opened this up and I thought, oh, this is going to be a continuation from the last book, just stylistically. And then it wasn't, was great because it was challenging. And when I spoke to Fred last time I interviewed Fred, we talked about music in that way as well. In that, isn't it great when you come across some music and it makes you challenged as a listener, because you have to work at it, and you have to, in a nice way, you have to work at it, and you have to open your ears a little bit more, and you have to open your senses a little bit more.
I like that you appreciate that instead of wanting it poured down your throat. I think that redefines what pop can mean in our culture. That it doesn't have to mean stupid. That we're not stupid. It's short for popular, right? So let's make things that aren't stupid popular. And if that's not going to be a breadth game, but a depth one, then you do have to sort of bring it. You have to bring yourself to a project so that you can't be lied to, for one, and that you are a participant. And I think that's why these memoirs also disappoint, because I am the narrator. I'm not talking about me. I'm not talking about feelings and self-expression and what I did. It's like I'm sort of invisible. I'm watching other people, and in this case, it's my 4 boys.
Yeah,
and that's something to watch. And it's not. There's a sweetness because humans have hearts, but I don't think children are very silly the way we have sillified them. We've done the same thing to women culturally, obviously. Just tell them, you're about fashion. You're an idiot. Go. And it disempowers them, obviously. I'm not sure exactly why, because those are adult humans that live the same lives as anybody else, and we're pretending they didn't. With children, it's pretty obvious. They're terrifying. They embody life and death at the same time. All of our terror. And the gravity inherent in that, I think, is why it's difficult to get into this book, because as I was losing my oldest son and he was losing his mother, the maelstrom of that pain becomes so disorienting that it's very reflective of exactly what it was like, but nobody wants to be there. And that's why I resisted writing this book for so long, because it had to begin there. But from there, it's a jumping off point into adventure, I suppose. I had to leave that pit of lava. And then when it's time to tell the other stories, you're sort of cleaned out by it. But you got to stick with it. And I figured dummies right away.
I mean, there was lots that resonated because I'm a father of 5. 4 boys as well.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then a single daughter who, obviously has to find her voice in amongst these 4 boys. You can imagine what that's like. I mean, it's a funny journey, isn't it, into parenthood and then seeing your children become adults and find their own.
Their influence can be felt before they're born. That was what was striking me about the book. And I don't write books on purpose. From start to finish, I'm sort of following their assertion that they should exist. And if the book doesn't have that alive quality, I won't bring it about. Same with a song. I learned that from songs and children, really. And so when their influence is felt, they're just sort of ghost babies. And then the ghost babies come to life. And my job was not to tell them what to think or do or what effect to have, but to just keep them safe. And that's why my role in the book was just narrator. Like, you really have no impression of me at all on this book.
But in a way, they can be sort of mirrors that shine stuff back at you as well, children. I mean, what would you say you've learned most from your children?
Everything.
Oh, everything.
Yeah, because they're little Buddhist bells of life. They're just going like now. And my kids are very quiet and very still, so I didn't have that chaos that some people talk about. They had to learn right away. You have to sit on an airplane. You have to be with adults in the dressing room. And they were capable of playing, but there wasn't much chaos. Like, we would walk by playgrounds where kids were yelling, and they would say, "Mom, what's the matter with them? Are they okay?" Because they didn't seem to have that desire to scream.
No.
And,
does that partly come as well, though, from the fact that I mean, it's my experience, when you have a larger family and you've got 4, I mean, they're their own little club as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's this kind of, I really wouldn't know what it would be like for someone that just has one child, and because for mine, they're really happy in their own little space.
Yeah.
Of the family, and some people are just longing to get out there and socialize their kids with other people. Ours would just quite happily.
That's good to hear, because now that they're all in the world, they're coming back and saying, "Mom, the world isn't the van." And all I can say is, well, yeah, that's why the van. Did you not know that? I did that on purpose. And they said, well, yeah, but what do we do now? And it's not that hadn't occurred to me, but I didn't have any choice, really. I wanted them to be appalled by what
what was out there
about the world. It's similar to war. It's like you have these kids out there, and they're looking at how murder makes heroes, and here it's collecting money and to slow murder and all the isms. It's not that the world is a dark place. It's that I want them to fight those darknesses and to be upset by them and not inured to them.
Yeah. Let's talk about music for a minute.
Okay.
This was the first album of yours, the Frame Muses, that I bought.
Oh, that's a good first record.
That was, yeah. And I have to blame, I believe, Q Magazine for actually writing a nice review of that. And me thinking, oh, actually, I'm going to go and try it.
Wow, thank you.
But that actually changed the course of everything for me, because yours was the first album that I listened to and then thought, I'm actually going to now learn guitar.
Wow.
Because up until that point, I just sung in a band. But I thought, you know what? There's something on there I'm going to actually pick up and play. And the first song that I learned of yours was Pearl. And what struck me straight away was I felt that the way that I played was really quite similar to you. And I couldn't find up until that point a reference point for playing that made sense to me, and then suddenly it made sense.
Wow, that's a nice compliment.
Thank you. But here's my question, because you've talked over the years about channeling, if you like, songs. Songs are there, and you channel them. How much on the technical side of playing have you actually had to persevere with?
I started playing when I was 9 and took about 10 years of classical guitar
Right.
before I realized that it was killing my sonic vocabulary to focus on rules. It was no longer opening any doors. It was just shutting the voice that I had been born with, as anyone is born with. And I wanted to get back to the playing that would have occurred to me if I had never heard anyone else play or read sheet music. And that's essentially what Throwing Muses sounds like by the time we were releasing our recordings.
So did all of that classical stuff that you learned, did it actually help? Or did you actually, the muscle memory that you got from that, did that help? Or did you actually need to forget some of that?
I did need to forget some of that. I mean, it helped to become facile with the piece of wood that is my instrument. It's fun, but it had become a hobby. It wasn't a passion. And songwriting, it has to be passionate, or you won't be raw. You'll be self-conscious, and obviously that's what the music business prefers, but it's not what I prefer. Yeah. And so when we started playing out, it was a big party of we were only 14, but for 5 years we played out, and people's most of the reviews said self-taught, meaning they don't know what they're doing. And so Leslie and I, who had worked everything out, was my first bass player.
Yeah.
Everything out for weeks and weeks and months, like to just create this planet of music that was enchanting to us for every measure. Some people also said it sounds like they're playing different songs, but that's because it was so intricate. And we were just entertaining ourselves. We didn't care what people thought, but it was only recently that I was like, fuck you, self-taught. That was hard. Yeah. But really, I believe self-taught is probably the way music will move forward. Like every Uber driver, I meet says, "Oh, I'm not a real musician. I play because I love it." It's like, Dad, go. You be the musicians now. Fire all these professionals.
It's funny, isn't it? How are people learning guitar these days? I mean, I guess, what we didn't have back then is things like YouTube. Back in the day, you did have, music teachers, and you had books that taught you chords and things like that, or tabulation or whatever. But you didn't have this boundless amount of reference point on the internet that you could just go, I'll look at that again. And you can, and that's the other thing, you can just go, back, I'll just watch that little bit. I wonder whether it's great or not. I mean,
I should do that when I can't figure out my own parts.
Well, it's a way of doing it. I mean, the wonderful pianist Rick Wakeman actually said to me once in an interview, he hid on stage for many, many years part of Morning Has Broken that he did with Cat Stevens. Do you remember Morning Has Broken from Cat Stevens? Because Cat Stevens never paid him for that piece in the studio. So whenever he played it live, he put his hand over his other hand to play this little fill, so that no touring musician with Cat Stevens could play it.
Well, I like the idea that we could become more musically literate, meaning more in touch with our visceral response to sound, with just music in the ether the way it is, through genre, through time, taking the dollar sign out of that equation, and we'd have a populace that I would have assumed was more idiosyncratic and demanded more substance, because the way they sold music when it was just the big moguls doing it, was very anti-music. They don't want substance in music, because then you can't control the populace. You can't tell them what they want. And they say, you want fashion, you want what is hip right now. And your FOMO is going to keep you spending money on that, because you'll be left behind. And fashion is not music. Those are opposed endeavors, obviously. Music is a timeless proposition. It's not always, but it should be. And then your style is just reflective of your own fingerprint.
Yeah.
Yes, it moves through time, just as we move through time. But it's not going to be determined top down anymore, because it's everywhere.
Absolutely. Do you think it's one of the things that's made you popular? With I'm going to say popular. You may say, well, actually, no. I live quite modestly, so if I was really popular, I'd have a much bigger house right now, and I wouldn't have had to move around quite so much. But when I say popular, you have a group of people that support you, and do you think that one of the reasons that you have a group of people that support you no matter what is because actually you've just done what you wanted?
Yeah.
Really.
It wasn't easy to do what I wanted. They don't make it easy.
No, I mean, the industry would hate you for that, but
I
believe that the people that support you love you for that.
Yeah, there's more love and less like in my world, for sure. I didn't have the option of doing what they tell you to do. To be a pop star for a woman is, we're all familiar with what you're supposed to do. You look at every camera like you want to fuck it. You got to be dangerously underweight, so you look weak. You gotta wear gobs of makeup, fashion, flirt. I just didn't have the option. I was like, no, I'm a human. I'm not one of them. And who
did they try? They tried that with you at some point, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they got rid of me because I wouldn't do it, and I wanted to leave. They did worse than get rid of me. They buried me, and they wouldn't let me leave. But what are you gonna do? Like, what would my children think of me if I were someone that put money and attention before my convictions? Or if I put product before music? I don't have that option. So it wasn't easy, but yeah, that's how you earn love over like.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you've played with the way to get your media out there in relatively recent years as well. The fact that you've released books with the CD in, etc.
Thank you.
I just, I talk quite a lot to some of the different musicians that come through here, and especially some of the young ones, about that as a process, because I think a lot of young musicians are trying to look for a way to get in now, and I think you've got to be smart with your art. You agree with that? You can't just necessarily see it as you can't just use the mechanism that the industry gives you. You've got to think beyond that mechanism.
Yeah, I mean, they might want to. This is not the win. Win would be sucking and going after shallow fans by playing shallow. I can't even call it music. There's no such thing as bad music. It's either music or it's not. Music is.
It's who it's made by. It's who it's made by. It's what the conviction is behind it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
But there's no planned obsolescence in the substantive. So whereas I would like a long, sustainable career in the corner without anybody looking at me, the business itself wants just an image and an inflammatory fan response, and then to move on. That's what top-down phenomenon is. And popular culture could be more reflective of our culture. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't live in your country, but in America, we're sort of the entertainment industry country. And yet we have an American culture. It's just not reflected in our popular culture. Popular culture is determined by an industry, the fashion industry, essentially. So it's a business like any other one. And that economy is just not reflective of our culture, which America's amazing. It's a melting pot. It's got a lot of trouble. But
I mean, what I see across everything, not just in the arts now, but I think across business as well. And I think don't want to linger on the COVID pandemic thing, but actually, I think what the pandemic has done has it's opened a lot of people's eyes to what is important in life. That's a a given, really. And I think a lot of people are beginning to kind of rebel in a way against the system. We have a thing now in business. We've just been talking about it in a meeting before I came here, about the Great Resignation. A lot of people are just ditching their jobs. High up people just ditching their jobs and going, do you know what? No, the money and making me work 95 hours a week and selling my soul to the system. Do you know what? I've realized there's more to life than this. And I just, I love the fact that for every crass radio station that plays exactly the same as this other radio station, and they broadcast the same thing every lunchtime across the network, and there's a list of 6 songs that you hear on repeat over and over again. For every one of those, there's a little radio station that is really just playing what they like.
Yeah. That's the humanity inherent in all of this. And you can't be rigid in your impressions and say, well, these are the rules, these are the people that are lying, these are the people telling the truth, because that's a superficial valuation too. Even just to nail somebody as a liar or a genius is not gonna, there's no follow through in your impression that way. That's where you get racism and sexism. And there's no superficial valuation that's gonna move through time reliably. So you just keep looking for the humanity, and you can find it anywhere. It's just this spinning out of ego and economy. It sort of creates a scary hurricane of downward effect that can hurt for sure, particularly the people that used to live off the low-hanging fruit, from independent musicians to the working poor. You lose real important soldiers, but you can't see power as what's taking up space and being cruel, which is historically how we view power. And you parse the elements of every ism, and it comes down to that misapprehension. So you don't want to go there, but it's good to look out and see what people with enthusiasm are doing. I'll rail against the music business till the cows come home, but there's great radio. There are great record companies. There are great photographers and engineers and even musicians, even though you've never heard of any of the great ones.
And just let me say, for anyone that perhaps hasn't even heard your music, or doesn't even know you as a musician or an author or whatever, regardless of that, if you want good social political commentary in terms of what's going on, please do follow Kristin on Twitter. I must say that the whole way through the whole Trump what do you call that mistake, that whole period, your Twitter comments were both politically correct, but also quite inspiring and very humorous at times, which was wonderful.
Thank you. They targeted me and my son initially, the Trump people, as a very leftist musician, and I'm so humanist, I was not I was not getting into the virtue signaling and the shaming, and I wasn't even taking sides, so to speak, because I find that to be disingenuous. But they chased me and threatened me, and and I had other musician friends experience the same thing, and I said, what do you do? And they said, don't trust the cops, hate everybody, and amplify. I was like, so you mean you're enjoying this? I mean, how do I find the humanity here? How do I circumvent this inflammatory response? Not how do I make it noisier than it already is?
No, absolutely.
But
There's
it was interesting. They were interesting people. And I'm not calling them on anything that I wouldn't call our virtue signalers on.
Well, we had fun over here watching it all unfold, and when I say fun, we did mock, and especially the whole bleach thing. I mean, what?
The what?
The whole bleach thing. That whole scene where with Trump in the White House looking at his scientific aid or whatever, and seriously asking the question about whether it might be a good idea to inject bleach was just.
Yeah, I was sort of intrigued. I majored in immunology, and I had no idea that our populace on both sides were so uninformed as to symptomatic response. I'm still a little bit shocked, but I don't have to get into it. But it's a virus, and we're mammals, and this isn't, binge watching Netflix isn't quarantine.
We just thought we were watching an episode of Monty Python at the time. That's really what was going on. Lots of people watching, lots of people commenting. Scott just reminds us that you also do the best morning photos on Twitter.
The best what?
Morning photos. Which I think is great. I mean, it's at the end of the day, first thing in the morning, what else should you do than just to say morning to each other, right?
Yeah, and you're looking at your small life, which, I mean, not to get too heavy-handed, but they can't disempower you if you don't empower yourself by the superficial. You have a fingerprint. You are unique, and yet to decide that you are your race, your gender, blah, 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 your class, the amount of attention you get, the amount of money you have, that is not impact. That is not where your selfhood comes from. It's your small life. If you are baffled by all the information coming in, realize that it has been curated. Can curate your own. Look down. Look at your life. Turn your senses on. Look at what is around you. It's really beautiful. And then you begin to share. And all the people who follow me are also sending me morning pictures like, look at this beauty. And what a way to start the day, to be going like, look at this beauty. And it's all small and goofy. And it's not even like, goddamn sunrises and shit. It's like something that you didn't know was beautiful. It's a freaking mud puddle. Look how pretty it is right now.
It can be a fire hydrant, can't it, or something, that's it. I love it. No, I absolutely love it. Especially, I think sometimes you really capture New Orleans, for example. I think you really capture the spirit of New Orleans just with, you just capture the people that are there and the things that are going on there. It's everyday life.
And people who have no input from news or social media or popular culture, even. Most of them are in their own culture. New Orleans is the only way I know how to get off this planet. It's not in America and it's not on Earth. And yet it's full. It's got this baked in richness that isn't always easy or comfortable. But culturally, it's allowed for. You're not failing because you're not participating. There is no winning or losing. You're just living your life. And so I find it it's important to reorient that way. And that's the only place I can find beauty right now, is when people have already focused on their own lives. And so the noise, it just isn't there.
Yeah. Odessa says, I'm going to follow you now. How marvelous. There you go. That's what it's like. Join in the fun. Join the crowd. Join the early morning. Say hello to everybody
It's a
else.
nice group. Really nice group of people.
It's a lovely group of people.
Isn't it?
And actually, they're all quite intelligent. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with people not being intelligent. Don't get me wrong. But maybe, just maybe, that there's a group of people that have a civil intelligence,
there you go. It's defining intelligence. Definitely.
Exactly. That congregate together.
It's not information.
It's not a Mensa. It's not a Mensa score. Yeah,
What's
it's
that?
not a Mensa. It's not a Mensa score. It's not how well you did on an IQ test. It's a civil intelligence.
Some of the smartest people I know are they're not geniuses.
No. So, in terms of what you've been working on, you obviously you finished the book. The book was out last year. The book was fantastic. You had the solo album out last year. Was it last year as well? I lose track. I lose track of years now. But
that, so I guess that was
2 years ago. 2 years ago. Pandemic. 2 years ago. I got the T-shirt. I should remember. I came to see you in Exeter twice.
So thank you.
No, that was lovely. So you've got 2 albums on the go at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah, 50 Foot Wave is called Black Pearl, which is the neighborhood in New Orleans where the songs were written, and that's in and pressed and ready to go. I think the announce is very soon.
When you say pressed, what, you actually managed to get hold of some vinyl?
I know. That's crazy, huh? It's like everything's wacky now.
But hang on. Your name begins with a K, not an A. How did you manage to get hold of vinyl?
I know some guys.
Well, okay. I was just wondering, because you're neither Adele nor ABBA, so I just wondered how you managed it. That's all.
And yeah, now a solo record. So I'm in New England right now recording. I'm still kind of doing follow-up book stuff, but I won't do a brick and mortar book tour until the paperback comes out. Everything got canceled. I had three tours canceled, and umpteen book tours canceled.
It's just been dreadful. I mean, it's been nice for people to get back out playing, though, hasn't it? I mean,
we did a great tour. We just got back, and we had standing ovations everywhere, and I don't think that was us. I think it's people were just
an outpouring of need, sort of, thank goodness we're bloody here now.
Yeah. It was lovely, and
I think that's been the same. I think that's been pretty much the same everywhere, actually. I mean, I went to see a few bands in London not so long ago, and there was just this real sense of, thank goodness, thank goodness.
Yeah,
I'm standing in front of a band. It could almost have been any band, I suppose, but
that was the feeling I got. It's like, yeah, we're pretty good, but we're not standing ovation.
But yeah, no, I just think people have missed that interaction with people so much. And
there's a group high is a real thing. When it's time to share, it, and to have that blocked is a frustration. I'm not a stage performer, really. I only offer focus, so I don't really know where I am. I do the same thing in front of 250,000 people as I do in front of 2, but it is still an offering. The music, if it's publishable, it's an event that is for others. It's not for me. And it was sad to have Throwing Muses record come out, and that's it. It's like every tour was canceled, one after another. Still work, you know. I'm lucky that we can record, and then it becomes somebody else's soundtrack. That's effective. But to really back it up with your body in a room and know that the group high is also about focus. Yeah, because we don't have we don't have fans. We have people that show up because they like music, and they're like, we play music. And to not be able to do that and make sure that we remember what it is that we're about. It's just sort of like the record. I couldn't do right by it. You know?
So you say that you don't have fans. I mean, well, you have people that appreciate what it is that you do.
Yeah. We have listeners.
Yeah, you have listeners. But I tell you what, you do also have, and I've only really experienced this with you and one other band, which is that you have a group of people that listen to you as well. And I think it must be something to do with the way that you are with your art, who will turn to each other in a room, not knowing each other, and connect.
Yes.
Because whenever I've been to see you, I've made new friends. And
that's wonderful.
Yeah, and I just think it's so sad, isn't it? Because I'm sure that a lot of people they have thousands of people in a room, and everyone comes in to see them, and they do their thing.
Yeah.
And they leave, and all of those people leave, and they're in their own little bubble, probably in love with the band or whatever. But actually, what I think is that when people come to see you, they're actually in love with the community, and they're in love with the experience.
And you read the book, so that publicist said to me, your career is a mess. You have no demographic. Yeah, exactly. So there's no, is it straight white women you play for? Is it young people? Is it, I'm mortified.
Humans.
What's that?
Humans, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, I don't know what publications to go after. My hands are tied. You have to limit your audience to one, age, race, and it's nightmarish how they view the populace. And so to circumvent that somehow, I don't know how we did it, but it's even on Twitter. They talk to each other. They're making connections because they feel like-minded in spite of any superficial valuations. I keep saying it because it's not the way to go. Obviously, their fingerprints are not the same. So what do they have in common? Their humanity.
Yeah. And that's how people should get on in life.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter how old you are or, where you come from.
We dehumanize when we decide we know what's at someone's essence by what's on the outside. And obviously, I thought we knew that.
Yeah, no, it's true.
It doesn't make money.
And unfortunately, the only other time that tends to happen is through when something bad has happened. And then people suddenly come together, but how quickly they forget normally. And that's why I think it's really important to hold on to things that are true, and are very real, because I think then you actually grow a community that will stick together that little bit longer. Look at what happened in the pandemic. In the first lockdown, in the first few weeks or whatever, we had a massive outpouring of community and we're all in this together. Let's I don't know whether it was quite the same there, but certainly here, we had people out clapping every week for the NHS. We had, people coming together, and then slowly as people get back on with their lives, they kind of forget that, and they kind of, and actually we saw kind of a reverse of that, where it's actually, you know, I hate you because you've got a vaccine. I hate you because you haven't got a vaccine.
Do you know the Dr. Seuss book, Star-Bellied Speeches? A mask is no star, and we hate you if you don't have one. And I thought, short of alien overlord, this is a really nice chance for us to pull together as humans, and it was for a second. But ego is quick. It's not smart, but it's quick. And if there is a chance to love, to hate, it will take it to make itself bigger, and it will bring people into its fold. And you just keep aligning with soul over ego. You escape that, but you know, not always entirely.
I'm not going to hold you to any dates, all right, because that would be businesslike and horrible. But when and we don't, you and I don't survive in that universe. But when would you like, therefore, to see the music that you've done released?
To see what?
When would you like the 2 projects to be released? When would you like to see your 2 albums released?
I have some 50-foot wave re-releases, or technically re-releases, even though we've never had a record company before, which is another interesting take on rigidity. That I had said when I started 50-foot wave, we're going to break every rule to play a kind of mastermind and see which pieces fall into place.
Let's give it away.
Yes. So no money, you know, we give the music away. Everybody volunteers their time, and we don't even sell product, no record companies, no publicity, blah blah blah. And we were, you know, a functioning entity as long as we could stay on the road. And we did record. Engineers volunteered their time, and we did, I think, 2 million downloads of some release, free music, maybe, probably. And Billboard got all upset. Who are you? You have to like have catalog numbers, and you got to fill out all these forms, and you have to send us your records and all this. And
no, we don't.
You don't give a shit about us, I promise. And they're like, 2 million downloads, you can't do this. And I was like, it doesn't matter, right? It's just music. And then they found out we didn't charge, and they were like, oh, phew, it doesn't matter. Like, I knew it, you motherfuckers, you're counting money, you're not counting anything else. And they're like, oh yeah, we're counting money. So it wasn't like we dropped the record out of helicopters onto people. They
were thinking, we owe her. What do we owe her?
But you know, I was just waiting for the paradigm to shift. It took a couple of decades. I guess I left Warner Brothers like 25 years ago, something like that. It did. There are record companies who are functioning and still offer me the opportunity to not have to earmark listener support funds for production, distribution, promotion. The record companies handle that. And since I'm not looking to profit necessarily, I'm just looking for teammates to get music out there. Yeah. They are now releasing some 50-foot wave records like Power and Light, which is 30 minutes of music that is uncategorizable in the industry, so nobody can carry it, they can't stream it. And then Bath White, which is probably right after Power and Light. Anyway, the Fire Records is putting those out before the new release, I think, or maybe vice versa. I was going to say 3 50-foot wave releases.
We'll do that so people can get those. I was going to say, you're on fire now.
You know, I tried making a joke. Nobody ever gets it.
Yeah. It's you've always been on fire, but you finally are on fire, which is great. And I feel it feels like a right place for you to be at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely feels
Yeah.
like a right place to
They
be.
were saying it's not because you're a heritage artist. We think you're cool right now. And it's like, I have absolutely no self-concept when it comes to that stuff. As long as I can keep recording and, you know,
If
recording.
you say I'm cool, I'm cool. That's the best way. Oh, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Oh,
today.
yeah, it was so nice that we finally pulled it off. Sorry
Yeah.
for the difficulty.
Hey, as I said, look, we said at the beginning, it's a weird world, isn't it, at the moment? You know, and it's difficult to know whether you're coming or going or coming. But
that's good. I like that. I think we should
yeah,
we should keep it messy. We should keep mixing it up.
absolutely. But looking at the hundreds of comments that have come in down the side of this, you've got a load of people that continue to love you and love what you do, and so just keep doing it. All right?
Yeah.
Please. Okay. Otherwise, I'm coming to get you.
Right on.
and the only other thing I want to know is, because he's not told me recently. Did Fred actually ever manage to perfect that guitar sound that he was working on? That it was going to be all over his new album. Do you know?
What guitar sound is that?
Well, when I spoke to him last, he said this new album is going to have this particular guitar sound that he's working on all over it.
Ah, yeah. Do you want my secret?
Yeah.
Baritone, super baritone, but any baritone really. And you have to drown an electroharmonic faux voix, like literally dunk it in water.
Really? What, until it cracks?
Yeah, it was my favorite pedal, and it was rescued from a flood by my neighbors just post Katrina. They saved only family photos, a couple of guitars, and this my favorite pedal. And it lasted for a few years, and it's on a couple of records, but it died, and then I never replaced it. Some friend got it off of eBay, and I'm like, it sounds like a beer commercial. It's like, like, was I making it up? Did I used to be really lame? And no, it's because they have to drown it. You know,
you've got a whole load of people in there.
If it's plugged in, don't get in the tub with it. But
you've got a whole load of people in the comments going, amazing now. Please. I feel we all almost need to put a triangle on this with a warning. Please don't necessarily go and put your guitar pedals in water.
Yeah, I have had such wicked bad shocks in my life. You know, playing festivals during rainstorms and stuff like that. Yeah. I had my lips blown off in France. There's like blood everywhere.
What, off the end of the mic?
What's that?
Off the end of the microphone.
Yeah. It's like lightning strike.
Not fun. It's not fun getting an electric shock through a microphone.
No. So don't get in the tub with the pedal. But now that we're sharing secrets.
Oh, unless you want a really, really interesting 2022, you know, and then you know.
Then you can goddamn write yourself a book. It's like it'll be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. The day I tried what Kristin told me. Oh dear. Thank you so much for joining me,
sweetheart.
Kristin, for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, as I said, and let's do it again sometime.
Let's do it again sometime.
Let's not leave it a decade or so before we do it.
No. I'm gonna die soon, probably, right? It's like it's been so fucking long. So.
You're not gonna die soon.
We're all gonna die soon.
yeah. Well, we are, but you're quite fit. You do. You know, you jump in water and stuff. You swim in water.
I'll see you here tomorrow then. We'll talk at lunchtime.
Yeah, absolutely. See you later.
Bye, baby.
Have a lovely time. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Graham. Take care.
Bye.